morning, Governor, the delegation minister from New Mexico, my friend, Consul General, all of my friends here at IIT Madras Research Park, which we're incredibly proud of. I have my apologies for being late. If anybody says that climate change is not real, they should live in Chennai for a couple of months. In the last 2 months, I have had my flights diverted out of the airport because of bad weather. And because of the rains yesterday, the roads were such a mess that even with a government flag and a siren, it took me almost 35 minutes to cover a few kilometers. And this is not the monsoon season, right? So let's all be clear. This is completely out of any historical pattern. These are the trends that we're seeing. It's very, very real. I want to say that in some ways we can see some similarities between Tamil Nadu and New Mexico in the sense that we are also in Tamil Nadu the #1 state in renewable energy as a percentage of the total. We also get a lot of sun. We also get decent wind during the right times of the year. We have invested heavily as a progressive state over probably 40 decades in wind and probably 20 years, 40 years in wind and 20 years in solar. But we have a lot of room to grow. In some other ways, I think philosophically, when I had a chance to speak with the governor, this notion of inclusion, of rural empowerment, of making sure everybody gets a seat at the table, of equitable growth, of a just society, I think these values are shared and vital to our relationship. In general, as a federalist, I'm also very happy to see state-to-state interactions and relationships because, at the federal level, the tone is set, but there's large variability within the states of India, across the states of India, and like the same way in the US. So where we find complementarity or an alignment of interests, I think a lot of traction is possible at a state-to-state level, and we're very delighted that you have chosen to bring your delegation and be here. In some other ways, I think our resources are complementary. We are not a fiscally very strong state. That's true of almost all states in India. Most developing countries, we are running relatively large deficits, financing for the future. And we are not natural resource endowed of the kinds of resources that New Mexico has. On the other hand, we are almost 80 million people, we think, because we haven't had a census in a while, which is 40 times the size of New Mexico. And we produce somewhere between 160 and 200,000 engineering graduates a year. So we're #1 source, probably not just in India, but in many parts of the world. You'd be hard-pressed to find that many engineering graduates. So from a human talent perspective, over 100 years of a particular philosophy has created an ecosystem where we're generating a lot of young talent, obviously not able to employ all of them, but looking for ways in which we can increase their productivity post-graduation. In the field of renewable energy, I think innovation is so vital because I was just thinking about from our years in the government, what would be our 4 or 5 top priorities for improving our utilization and our reliance on renewable energy. The Prime Minister has said the country gets to net zero 2070. And I'm on record that says if the country has to get there by 2070, Tamil Nadu has to get there at least by 2050 because the states are so disparate that if a developed, already #1 state like ours can't get there by 2050, then it's impossible for the country to get there by 2070. And of the things that came to mind as I was sitting here, of course, innovation and cost reduction in generation, particularly solar has become almost no room for improvement, I think, from a cost perspective, but wind, and particularly offshore wind for us, is a huge potential. And we are hoping with the extent of coastline we have, that we can get better policy and regulation and look at some innovation there. Also, in terms of innovation and cost reduction in storage, Professor Junjunwala was giving us some examples of what they're doing here. I think the very nature of renewable energy, at least most of the resources we have, is that it's going to be variable, either by time of day or by time of year. And so reliable storage and innovative storage becomes hugely important to us. In our case, we also have problems with transmission. We probably have one of the worst so-called line losses anywhere in the world. Part of that is bad policy, part of that is underinvestment in infrastructure. We have started to address that in one of the budgets I presented as finance minister. I mooted the separation of power lines for various users, including the free power we give to farmers, because right now we can't tell how much is free and how much is being lost. We just bundle all of that as line loss. We also need to see much greater efficiency of usage. As an example of the domestic usage, everywhere we go, we see the average air conditioning unit in Tamil Nadu today probably is vintage 85 or 90, and the efficiency of air conditioning has improved probably 6x in the last 30 years. So we have a lot of inefficient usage, and that includes government buildings, unfortunately. So, of course, there has to be enlightened government policy, government regulation, government incentives. We try to do as we can. We are hugely helped by the presence of IIT Research Park. This is my fourth or fifth visit here in the last 3 years. I'm always impressed by the attitude and the culture and the ecosystem that has been developed here. Many of my friends are graduates from IIT. Some of the professors are my friends. I come here for various types of events and lectures. And so I think this is a vital asset, irrespective of the domain. This institution is a vital asset for us in innovation, in attracting investment, in creating value, and in actually helping shape regulation and policy. So we're very delighted that we're able to show one of the best assets we have in our state to you today. To my knowledge, at least 4 or 5 institutions have come and signed up some form of partnership or memorandum in the last 6 months or a year. I'm sure you have many. We believe we grow from all of them. I think, the exchange of ideas, the perspectives that different people bring, and none of this develops in a vacuum. So the more we interact with others who are at the leading edge of their respective fields and their approaches, it's a mutual benefit to us. Our culture has always been like that, the Tamil culture where we're located. And this is probably the epitome of that kind of open approach. So thank you again for inviting me. Thank you for coming. I'm sure that there will be many fruitful outcomes from these interactions. We hope to welcome you back again soon. And I'm sure that if we can get like a good exchange program going, this not just with IIT, but across Tamil Nadu, I'll say to Srinivas and Ram, we certainly want to benefit from access to the best technology university or best university overall, irrespective of size. So we look forward to that. Yeah. Thank you again.